As Joshua meticulously tends to each weapon, it's evident they hold a deeper meaning, because not only is this animation unique to his character, but the game allows you to ask him about it.
This type of 45 automatic pistol was designed by one of my tribe almost 400 years ago. Learning its use is a new Canaanite rite of passage.
The 400-year-old person he's referring to is a real-life Mormon by the name of John Moses Browning, which shout out to the
Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be checking out the magic behind Fallout New Vegas DLC. This was uploaded by Boofcan here on YouTube. Yes guys, this was recommended to me by our Prefect Fyr, but I also got some recommendations from it by YouTube. And I did see it and I was like, damn, that seems like a pretty cool video to check out. Then Fyr recommended it to me, so you know, gotta check it out now, of course. So yeah, the magic behind Fallout New Vegas' DLC. If you guys have stuck with the channel at all before, you'll know that I fucking love Fallout New Vegas. It's my favorite Fallout game, probably by quite a bit. You know, you call me a Fallout New Vegas fanboy if you want, sure, I'll take it, you know. Totally am. I think that game is mint. The DLC are fantastic. It's some of the best Fallout DLC I think we've gotten. You know, I think I've exclaimed that before. We have done a full playthrough of Fallout New Vegas on the channel. If you haven't seen that, of course, go check that out. So yeah, and I played the game, beat it multiple times in the past before, of course. So yeah, we're gonna see if we learn anything new about the game here today. You know, I do know quite a bit about the game. I am gonna intersect when I can here, but otherwise, yeah, we're gonna try to let Boofcan take the stage here and let him explain to us why the Fallout New Vegas DLCs are fucking fantastic, why they're amazing. They're all interlinked. They all do such a great job. I'm going to be interested to hear what he has to say. If you guys enjoy, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe for more content from me, of course. Leave your recommendations down in the comments below. Without any further delay, guys, let's get right into this video. Yeah, we're liked up here, liked up, captions, quality, 1080p, sick, full screen. Without any further delay, let's get it.
At this point, I don't have to tell you how great Fallout New Vegas is. Trust me, we know. But what if I told you that the magic of the game lies not just in its main story, but extends into its downloadable content? It's genuinely amazing that the DLCs took everything that was great about the base game and applied that to create 4 vastly different but uniquely interesting worlds for players to sink their radioactive teeth into.
Very true.
I mean, how many DLCs can you think of that are just as good, if not better, than the main game? Well, here's a few. And yet, here's Obsidian just strolling in with a big iron between the hips, producing 4 back-to-back bangers. From the ghostly confines of the Sierra Madre to the madcap experiments of the Big Empty, these DLCs offer a glimpse into the weirder side of the Fallout universe.
Oh, Whitebird.
What logic is this? Keep your filthy penis-tipped feet out of our labs and secrets.
But what truly makes them great is the way.
And I will say, you know, people definitely have qualms and gripes about some of the DLC, but they're all great in their own way. I know fucking Dead Money is a lot of people that's their worst DLC, I think, you know, and I think that's like universally. It's between Dead Money and it's Dead Money and oh shit, what's it called? Honest Hearts. That's it. I knew it was going to be in here in the chapters. Honest Hearts, Dead Money and Honest Hearts. I know those are the 2 least ranked, but they're both fantastic in my mind. There's not a weak quote unquote DLC for Fallout New Vegas at all.
Filthy penis-tipped feet out of our labs and secrets.
But what truly makes them great is the way they seamlessly interconnect with each other and even the base game, weaving this narrative tapestry that only reveals itself when you take the time to appreciate all the hidden details. For example,
Ball 22 is pretty sick, yeah.
But wait, look, 3D animation is expensive, and I want to afford legs one day, so this video is sponsored by Display. Display is the go-to brand for top-notch metal posters that are a refreshing alternative to paper or canvas prints. There are over 2 million designs to choose from, ranging from original art to officially licensed art from things like Star Wars, Marvel, Elden Ring, and my personal favorite, Fallout. I recently got some 76 posters because say what you will about the gameplay, the art direction was so freaking good. You can even mount these bad boys without tools with their magnet mounting system. Each display comes with a magnet kit so you can mount them within seconds with without damaging your walls. This also has the added benefit that you can swap your disc plates at any time you want by simply popping off the magnet and adding a new one.
How
Display
convenient.
also offers fast delivery, meaning they'll be at your door in roughly 4 to 5 business days, and all metal posters from Display are printed in the EU. They even have a new product called Textra, which features tactile textures and 3D contours. And to
Damn.
make things even sweeter, Display is celebrating its birthday. Because of the special occasion, you can now get the biggest discount of this year. Use the discount link in the description or use my code Boofcan to get 32% off for 1 to 2 disc plates, 37% off for 3, and 42% off for 4 or more. Okay, back to Vault 22. New Vegas.
Of course, if you guys want to make use of that, this video was uploaded, I think, a year ago. So I'm not sure if it's still valid, but if it is, go give it a try. Boofcan, that's a pretty good deal. 1 to 2 displays, 32% off. You buy 3 or more, 37, 4 more, 42. 42% off is fucking mint, man. You get 4 of those sick metal posters, man. I've considered getting display. You know, I think they'd look fucking fantastic up there. I'm just gonna say it right now. So, you know, I might have to look into using that code. Holy shit.
And 42% off for 4 or more. Okay, back to Vault 22. New Vegas has this charming ability to take something really simple, such as a vault filled with humans turned into plant monsters, and weave it seamlessly into the continuity of its expansive world. Vault 22 serves as more than just a cautionary tale within the base game. To show you what I mean, there's this clever foreshadowing that happens before you even start the second DLC. You can tell the developers really wanted players to experience Vault 22 because this place gets a lot of love. Not only do a handful of quests send you here, but 2 of the 4 DLCs have deep connections to this one location.
And that's one of the reasons why I love New Vegas. That's the thing. Fallout 3 doesn't have this. You know what I mean? 4, they did a bit better with it at least. But in 3, man, there were so many locations and no quests at all to drive you there. In New Vegas, man, every location has got quests, something to bring you there, something to draw you there, and maybe even choices to make once you're there. And like things like you know, like locations such as like the Powder Ganger Vault and shit like that. You know, I didn't even really like know that existed fully, and I played the game for such a long time, and I never really like been there at all. I'd walked over it, but I'd never actually spent any time there. So knowing that there was decisions for even that, you know, there's so much in New Vegas, so many quests to draw you to a location. It's actually pretty impressive, I will say.
The quests send you here, but 2 of the 4 DLCs have deep connections to this one location. Regardless of the choices you may or may not have done here, each player who's experienced this vault intimately knows that A, no one has lived here for 150 years, the vault is completely abandoned, and B, this entire place is overrun with these monsters called spore carriers. It's only after reading the computer terminals you learn that the enemies you've been fighting are the residents from centuries ago. Prior experiments within the vault using dangerous fungal spores are the reason they mutated into these leafy abominations. There are very few people in the wasteland who know this, as most people aren't dumb enough to investigate, and those that were unknowingly sent there never came back. It's why when you're first tasked with the quest, the guy that gives it to you is very hush-hush and tells you not to let NCR authorities know.
Have you signed the release forms? No? Doesn't matter. We'll keep that to ourselves.
Well, what the hell?
As far as residents of the Mojave are concerned, this place is just another wasteland fairy tale. So it's really intriguing when you start the second DLC and find this random guy just casually wearing a Vault 22 jumpsuit and Pip-Boy. Players who might not be privy to the lore of Vault 22 might just see this as another guy in a vault suit. I mean, it's not that foreign. Nellis Air Force Base and Vault 21 are nearby, places where vault suits are common. But the difference of 1 digit takes on a whole new narrative meaning. Asking him about it, you quickly realize he's talking straight out of his ass. He claims he was born in Vault 22, yet can't even get the name of the device on his arm right. He keeps calling it a Pip-Boy. Someone, if they actually grew up in a vault, wouldn't mess this up. They would have had the thing since they were like 10.
Oh man, you got a Pip-Boy. I wish I was 10.
But even if you didn't pick up on his word vomit, we've personally been to Vault 22 and seen the horrors within, which is in turn reflected in your dialogue options. You can call him out as a liar.
Oh, you've been to Vault 22, huh? I may have been exaggerating a little.
And it's very cool, like, depending on, like, the things you've done, the environmental storytelling, and that's what he's getting here. You can just, like, there's different dialogue options, so you can call people out on their bullshit. You know certain things as a character. Love when games do that. There's a lot of detail in New Vegas, and it allows you to actually interact with that world in such a unique way.
You've been to Vault 2, huh? I may have been exaggerating a little. Truth is, I got this suit and the pit boy off a dead prospector who came out from Zion.
It's so simple, and I wish more games did this, but the fact that dialogue is influenced by experiences you chose to do previously, it results in this cathartic gotcha moment where you can then leverage this to your advantage. And on top of being a really neat callback, something as simple as the clothing an NPC wears has multiple layers of meaning when your world is this rich. Ricky finding this vault suit in Zion subtly tells us that some of the residents must have escaped there, which when you think about it makes sense considering vaults only open from the inside. We were only able to explore it because someone previously left it. Eventually, this is all confirmed when you find notes scattered around Zion detailing the acts of cruelty survivors of Vault 22 committed throughout the valley. What the fuck? What do you mean they ate them? And all of this is physically confirmed when you stumble across the remnants of their old camp, and even discover that a few caves still have spore carriers lurking centuries later. It's genuinely impressive because at a surface level, this just looks like reused enemy assets, but there's a genuine lore reason why they're here in the valley, and it all ties back to Vault 22. This is environmental storytelling at its finest, because let me remind you, all of this is never outright told to the player. You can play this entire DLC and never make these connections, but players that take the time to piece these clues together can thread this hidden narrative that links 3 different areas together, explaining why the world is the way it is. When people talk about how great New Vegas's DLCs are, they're typically referring to moments like this. Yet this is only one of many said moments. Each DLC is full of stories and connections just like this one. But if we want to discover all these, we'll need to start from the beginning. No, I really mean that. I'm not doing the cliche YouTuber thing. The first and last DLCs have unique dialogue and interactions solely dependent on the choices you made within the base game. Which now that I think about it, they're kinda...
When you say I love you...
Seamlessly integrated? Yeah. You can play them in any order, and it kind of makes sense.
A thing every open world DLC has to consider is the ways it will integrate with the base game and onboard the player. This is really hard to mess up, but when it's done well, it really stands out. Look, for as much shit as I can give Bethesda, I have to admit, they're really good at this. When Fallout 3 released its DLCs in 2009, it set the blueprint for how DLCs would be for later entries. You know how every Fallout DLC starts with you picking up a radio signal that leads you to a location that inevitably sends you to a faraway land? Yeah, Fallout 3 is the reason that trend started.
All of this just works.
As this wasn't something you could just refer back to the original Fallouts for. 1 and 2 didn't have DLCs. However, when Obsidian took the reins for New Vegas, they not only followed in the footsteps of 3, but innovated this formula. On top of being well integrated into the game world like its predecessor, each DLC has a unique way of influencing the narrative depending on things you did in the base game. Although New Vegas gets praised for this, and rightfully so, I think 3 had the right idea here, but sadly it only showed up in one of the DLCs.
Glaze 3 for 84 seconds.
Players can make by injecting FEV into the water purifier. Doing this means that any person who's been exposed to radiation, aka everyone in the wasteland, will eventually die if they drink the local water.
Oh no.
Normally something this insidious would be reserved for an ending slide, like, oh boo-hoo, everyone died.
War never changes.
But the Broken Steel DLC actually continues where the main game would normally end, allowing players to see the consequences of their actions through gameplay. You can find people complaining about getting sick after drinking the water, the medical center in Rivet City is overflowing with the ill, and should the player drink 3 bottles of Aqua Pura, they fucking keel over. The game letting players mess up the world this badly is really cool, and it feels so meaningful because you didn't have...
I'll be real, I've never actually... So I played Fallout 3 a lot too, I didn't actually know that. I've never like done the FEV and done it that way. I've always tried to play like a good character. I've never actually tried that one. I didn't know that was a thing. That's very cool.
Players mess up the world this badly is really cool. And it feels so meaningful because you didn't have to put FEV into the water.
No.
If anything, the game heavily dissuades you from doing so.
Yes.
I understand that you may have become sympathetic to certain individuals in your travels. Individuals this will eliminate.
But should you choose to do it, whether out of ignorance or malice, you have to live with the consequences regardless. But the synergy between the base game and the DLCs only happens this one time. I like to think the developers of New Vegas must have seen that players really enjoyed this type of reactivity, so they made sure things like this happened more consistently. But being well integrated doesn't just mean that when you do X thing, Y result happens. When you do this while also making it make sense within the narrative world you're building, that's where the real magic starts to shine. And these DLCs are able to accomplish this because there's an unbelievable amount of
foreshadowing. Just as sure as you live.
He is right about that foreshadowing. There is so much. Like if you play, what is it? If you play Old War Blues and then you like walk around there, you'll see signs of like Christine and signs of Elijah, like, you know, Christine hunting Elijah and signs of their battles, their struggles and shit like that. And it just makes it like in Dead Money feel so much more impactful. And you'll just see signs of like Christine kind of like everywhere, you know, like she's been tracking down Elijah. She's been doing shit. And, you know, just telling the story of the Brotherhood from that angle, like another external Brotherhood story, given the Mojave chapter in general, how they are, you know what I mean? It's very cool to see like the route that they took. There's so many like throwbacks here and there, and especially to do with Veronica too, right? Yeah, let's see what he has to say. Of course, don't want to steal the thunder. Oh, the rocket launcher.
The reason why New Vegas DLCs feel so rewarding is because there's a lot of subtle hints sprinkled into the base game.
Wish I was at the Sierra Madre.
Every time I replay, I find some one-off mention or a piece of dialogue that just seems like a throwaway line, but actually connects to one of the DLCs. It's kind of ridiculous, so much so that one of the most interesting characters you can interact with in Dead Money is from a poster located in one of the loading screens.
Yeah.
Players who haven't played Dead Money probably assumed that this guy was either dead or just a cool piece of art, but no, he's now a cunning ghoul trying to con his way into pulling off the heist of 2 centuries in the making.
Literally.
Get up without my permission. I'll blast your ass.
New Vegas is notorious for this. You'll see or hear about some mythical wasteland figure within the base game to only realize that they do exist within one of the DLCs. The best example of this I've seen by far has to deal with Dead Money. Look, as much shit as people give Dead Money for reasons we will get into later, this entry is criminally underrated and how well it foreshadows its antagonists within the base game. But to really understand the clever ways it pulls this off, we gotta talk about Veronica.
Well, thanks for taking a chance on a naive young girl from California with stars in her eyes and a pneumatic gauntlet on her hand.
Something I didn't get to speak about much in my first video is the Brotherhood of Steel. Despite being the poster child for almost every Fallout game ever made, in New Vegas they actually take a back seat for once. What used to be the strong and mighty group that could rival the Wasteland has now devolved into a reclusive bunch that's scared to leave their bunker. These guys are so paranoid that should the player make contact with them, they'll strap a bomb collar on your neck and force you to do their bidding.
To underscore this point, you'll be fitted with an explosive collar. Wander off and it will detonate. Focus on your mission and you'll be fine.
They have to rely on supply runners such as Veronica to make ends meet, and despite the Elder knowing that they're on track to extinction, his strict adherence to the cult-like codex they follow is preventing them from making any progress. It's a sad state of affairs, and seeing this makes the player wonder, what the hell happened? And that's when you learn that every member of this chapter has a burning grudge against a man named Elijah.
Yeah.
Elijah was a strange one. Our Elder at the time, Elijah,
used to drive Father Elijah crazy.
Former Elder, Elijah?
Before Elder McNamara, there was a previous Elder named Elijah. This guy was insanely smart, but also batshit crazy. On top of waging a war with the NCR, he was hyper obsessed with the Helios 1 solar plant and was one of the earliest people to realize that it wasn't just a power plant, but harnessed the ability to control an orbital laser cannon. Just like Icarus, Elijah flew too close to the sun. Whereas any sane person would tactically retreat when you're outnumbered 20-1, Elijah said fuck that, rolled a nat 1 and died. At least that's what everyone thought. But it's not until you get closer with Veronica that you learn she has a secret terminal, where she was able to get in touch with Elijah even after the bloodbath at Helios 1. This is important because eventually Veronica will ask you to help her change the ways of the Brotherhood. So using notes left behind by Father Elijah, you can choose to find one of 3 pre-war relics to prove the Brotherhood needs to change their ways. But should you choose to locate the rangefinder, you can find a lot of clues that lead up to the narrative of dead money. You end up on this wild goose chase talking to local pawn shops.
Antique rangefinder. Trying to think of something that'd be more worthless. Maybe an antique horoscope. Or an antique sandwich.
Which eventually leads to Vault 21, where a character that's normally dismissed by players has vital information on locating this rangefinder. You discover that a man with a bomb collar came into the store to purchase it. And this whole interaction is morbidly funny because Sarah explains it so casually.
Had a funny collar on. Well, it was metal and kind of thick. At first I thought he'd come from Gomorrah, but they're more into leather there. Didn't look comfortable. He kept reaching up like he was gonna itch it, but he always stopped himself.
But Veronica realizes this has the Brotherhood written all over it.
I don't like the sound of this. Hope that collar isn't what I think it is. What did you do, Elijah?
And the player knows this firsthand because they did this shit to you when you first met them. And all of this comes together when you find a dead body in Freeside with his head exploded. It was this moment right here that made me want to make this video. The environmental storytelling here is insane. Because this dead body tells us that Elijah put a bomb collar on a man, forced him to buy the rangefinder off of Sarah, which, let me remind you, is in character because through Veronica, we learn he hardly talks to people face to face.
That's how he liked to talk, even to me. He wasn't good at face-to-face.
And his victim was kind of clever because he knew to get somewhere where radio frequencies would be hard to reach, but attempted to use a screwdriver to get it loose and blew himself up, which in turn makes sense why the little boy here in Freeside has the rangefinder. Him and the little shit that plays tag around here found the rangefinder off the guy Elijah killed. I'm a little stunned, if not flabbergasted, because this level of thought and world building is so good. Just like—
So I didn't really know about that man. So when I did that quest, I didn't do the rangefinder because I already sent the power elsewhere. I wasn't really looking to go for the rangefinder. I know, sue me, right? But I didn't actually know that was a thing. Holy shit. I didn't know that man existed. I've never actually been into that area, Freeside. I obviously knew about where the rangefinder was, where to find it, and all that, and that child had it, but damn, never knew about that man.
Flabbergasted because this level of thought and world building is so good. Just like we talked about with the example of Vault 22, something as simple as a dead body in Freeside, which again isn't out of the ordinary for this location,
no, it's definitely
so
not.
Many layers of narrative meaning. And here's just the cherry on top. All of this is foreshadowing for when you finally start Dead Money, and Elijah puts a bomb collar on you that can detonate based on radio frequencies. He's doing this to you because he's done it before in the base game. Okay, I've spent a long time talking about how well the DLCs are integrated and foreshadowed, but all the setup in the world won't matter if the content itself isn't worth playing. So let's take a look at the gameplay, themes, and interconnectivity for each one, starting with
Dead Money. Yeah.
This might be surprising to hear, but I like Dead Money.
I
also
do too.
really like Caravan, so I might just be a masochist.
Okay, yeah, he's just a fucking psychopath. Never mind. My bad. I'm joking, guys.
But jokes aside, this DLC is amazing. I know reviews and online sentiment paint a slightly different picture, but simply put, Dead Money is straight up a well-written piece of fiction that tried something experimental with its gameplay to mixed reception. I will say this DLC is unique for the fact that it deviated from the open world formula fans have been accustomed to, opting for a more linear form of storytelling and progression like Half-Life or BioShock. And honestly, this is fine, as if you're going to experiment, DLCs are the perfect opportunity to do so. However, as much as I do like Dead Money, that was not always the case, and here's why. Dead Money is brutal, bruh, unforgiving, yeah, I'm dead, and downright hellish at times. I remember the first time I played and beat Dead Money. I left it not understanding anything that was going on, and I didn't care because I was just trying to brute force my way through the experience. And looking back on it, I played Dead Money so wrong. It wasn't until years later that I learned two important things that allowed me to eventually become a Dead Money enjoyer. The first was patience, and the second was tweaking my playstyle. Dead Money is the kind of DLC that's uniquely different from the others because it forces you to develop a wrinkle in your brain. You can't play recklessly and expect to win like you can in the base game. In Dead Money, you're no longer in control. Just like the charming man in the checkered suit once said,
"The game was rigged from the start."
Like, that's the thing. And that's like kind of like lore, not lore accurate, but that's to do with the world building, right? Like in this, you're basically just Elijah's bitch. That's just how it is, right? You have to play like Elijah's bitch. That's sad, but you can't really brute force your way through it. If you do, you're going to die a lot. Not to say you can't do it, but you're going to die a lot because you need to like understand how things work. You need to be smart with what you do, and especially like your ammo and shit. You need to be very more, much more micro-y, I guess, with the things that you're doing. I also recommend going in there with some repair skill because it helps a ton.
Dead Money begins after you follow a mysterious broadcast that promises you the opportunity to begin again at a casino called the Sierra Madre, which is taken quite literally.
And some
Should you
sneak
follow
too.
the broadcast, you'll end up in an abandoned bunker where Father Elijah gasses your ass so bad that you're put into a comatose state and completely stripped of every weapon, apparel, and aid you've ever collected in the base game. This is a bold choice to make for an open world DLC. Taking away all of your precious weapons and armors is the developer telling you, hey buddy, that perfect build you've been crafting, throw that shit away. But it makes sense in this context. Kind of. Elijah, the main antagonist of this DLC, explains that the reason you lost all of your gear was not by his choice.
Your arrival here, weaponless, was not my intention. The casino, this villa, it takes anything with even a trace of radioactivity, traces of unknown substances, and returns it home. The bunker.
The explanation given is that the man who built the Sierra Madre installed a scanner that detects foreign objects along with radiation, and removes them from the casino and its villas. How it does this is never shown or explained, but that's not my issue. If this is true, how the hell did Elijah get the bomb collars, jumpsuits, and our Pip-Boy into the casino? This also gets worse later on because, minor spoiler alert, when you finally meet Elijah, he's wearing Brotherhood Elder robes, his own Pip-Boy, and a fucking Gauss rifle. There is no way you're telling me that a Gauss rifle was not detected as a foreign object. I'm sorry if this is nitpicking, but I genuinely want to know how is he doing this. Either Elijah is lying about this process, or there is a major oversight in the writing. Regardless, on top of stripping the player of all their gear, this DLC also makes your life miserable due to a few lethal factors. The first is a bomb collar strapped to your neck. Again,
the enemies are bullet
anything
spongy
new.
as fuck.
The base game foreshadowed this, but there's a twist. Your bomb is now linked to 3 other people, meaning if one person dies, you all die. Elijah did this because he needs you to gather and direct a team to open the Sierra Madre casino. This forces everyone to cooperate and in theory should prevent greed, which is one of the major themes of this DLC. Oh, but it gets worse. As an unintended consequence, radio signals across the villas can interfere with the bomb collars, meaning that getting close to a radio has the ability to pop your head unless you disable or avoid that radio. This gets tricky in certain areas because you'll hear beeping way before you even see the radio. In addition to the collar, you also have to deal with a toxic cloud that saps your health away, enemies called ghost people that only die if you dismember them, and very limited ammo, weapons, and supplies. You might hear all this and say, this sounds awful. An awful lot like a survival horror game. And if you feel that way, that's actually what the designers intended. Although they were trying to lean more on the horror aspect, it's why you hear shit like this when you start the DLC. And that's not just me saying that. Shortly after release, Chris Avalon, the project director for Dead Money, made an official Obsidian blog post talking about the reasons behind certain design choices. One of them being that Dead Money was supposed to be horror first, that put survival aspects second. Now, anyone that's played Dead Money can attest that's not the case. It's definitely survival first. And Avalon himself agreed, stating that he didn't feel like they succeeded in the horror aspect. But damn did this man succeed when it came to survival.
It's like, it's creepy and disturbing for sure, but it's not horror, you know what I mean? You don't feel scared. You feel like, oh shit, you clench your cheeks a little bit, but you don't, I'm not scared, you know what I mean? It's not like it's Outlast and I'm fucking shitting my pants over here, you know what I mean? Like,
didn't feel like they succeeded in the horror aspect. But damn did this man succeed when it came to survival.
Oh, they
which
did,
has given
yes.
Dead Money its challenging reputation, especially if you play it in hardcore mode.
I like the balls being busted.
Once the player has adapted to these changes, you'll be tasked with finding 3 other victims that will play a part in Elijah's twisted game. A ghoul, a super mutant, and a mysterious woman. The ghoul, Dean Domino, is probably the most interesting character to interact with because he offers a window into the past. As a ghoul, he's been alive for over 200 years now, and his connection to the Sierra Madre is deeply personal, as he's spent the last 2 centuries plotting against the creator of the casino and wants to pull off the heist just as bad as Elijah, albeit for different reasons. I have to say, in regards to Dean, how petty do you have to be to hate someone and plot against their demise for over 2 centuries? That's truly some generational ass hating.
Yeah.
Dean might go down as the pettiest bastard out of all of the Fallout games. And this pettiness is reflected through his actions, demeanor, and candor. His ego is so painfully bloated that should the player at any point belittle him or outwit him, it will cause him to eventually turn on the player. And no amount of speech checks or dialogue options can diffuse this.
No. Now I think ruining you and all your plans would be enough for me. Kill me, I still win. You're never getting in the vault.
The super mutant named Dog or God, depending on which one you talk to, is a Jekyll and Hyde situation. Due to past trauma and brainwashing from the main antagonist of Fallout 1, Dog is a lost soul that yearns for someone to give him direction.
Master was quiet for a long time until Dog heard him on your arm. Did you eat him?
Sadly, that person was Father Elijah, who has been manipulating Dog to do his bidding.
Caller 8, the FEV reject, the super mutant. He's docile, predictable, and provided he's not starving, should be easy to command.
One example of this is when we were knocked unconscious back in the beginning of Dead Money, it was Dog that carried us to this hellhole.
Every time I see one of you, I know exactly how you got here. You heard the voice, the promise, and then you walked right into one of the old man's traps. Then Dog comes for you. Drags you here.
God, on the other hand, is his alter ego, and the voice of reason that's trying to protect and save Dog from his instinctive desire to be controlled. He has a deep hatred for greedy people, such as Father Elijah, Dean Domino, and depending on the player's choices, you as well. And finally, the mysterious woman Christine, who you eventually learn is a Brotherhood of Steel member with a grudge against Father Elijah. Christine is probably the least interesting character to start off because communication is difficult. She doesn't have any voice lines.
It sucks. Like, I can see what they were going for, and it's kind of cool, but without the animation, you know what I mean? Like the limiting of animation in Fallout New Vegas, you're just reading like hand motions. It's like improv, but you're just reading it. Yeah, it's something.
Probably the least interesting character to start off because communication is difficult. She doesn't have any voice lines until the end of the DLC due to an autodoc cutting up her vocal cords. While part of this sets up a narrative plotline between Christine and Dean, this was also an intentional design choice for 2 reasons. The first being that Chris Avalon wanted to experiment with a character that communicated everything via text, like you would see in an old school RPG. And the second thing was that he openly admitted that part of it was to save money. Which, side note, I think it's interesting when you realize New Vegas was able to cut down on cost and animations by having a lot of the characters interact via screens, i.e. Father Elijah and Mr. House, or having characters with parts of their face being completely covered by mask or other things. Like, when you think about it, Father Elijah appears on a screen for most of the DLC. Joshua Graham has his face covered by bandages, the scientists of the Big Empty have static images for faces that flicker, and Ulysses always has a rebreather on. Again, I'm not talking shit here, I just find it interesting how they made the most with how little time they had to create these experiences. Now, how you interact with Dog, God, Dean, and Christine from here on out does impact the ways they treat you later in the DLC. This is all because Elijah wants us to trigger a sequence called the Gala event, which is a performance that, when done correctly, causes the Sierra Madre to open up. I really like that during this section, each mini mission with your newfound companions tests your willingness to cooperate with each person, as there's always an easy way to complete these quests, but it always involves screwing over your companion, something they will remember later. For example, when you're with Dean Domino, you end up in an area that's infested with the ghost people, and despite Dean's massive ego, he's a complete and utter coward. However, you can forcibly intimidate him into staying put, but doing this bites you in the ass later, and if you were nice to him in the beginning, he remembers this and calls you out for it.
Really? You don't strike me as the type, especially after our little "how can I cooperate" chat at my home.
But if you're willing to go the extra mile for him, you can find 2 terminals that are a pain in the ass to get to and keep Dean safe. Again, I've gushed about this many times, but I love when games let you make choices and then see the consequences of those said choices. And all of this comes full circle when you finally pull off the gala and make your way inside the Sierra Madre. This is the final act of the DLC where you're tasked with disposing of your fellow companions and negotiating the final confrontation with Father Elijah. But it's here I should talk about another reason why Dead Money has a mixed reputation, and that's the holograms. The whole reason Elijah orchestrated this heist is because he wants the hologram technology found in this casino, and let me show you why.
They're fucking invincible, and they slap harder than anything else.
This shit is straight up busted. Imagine throwing one of these into the middle of a battlefield. You could decimate an entire army in a matter of minutes. You could also raise an entire civilization with the same technology. One of the things you'll discover while playing are hollow vending machines. They provide infinite food, ammo, and other goods. Basically feed the machine a Sierra Madre chip and it spits out an item. Now how it does this, it is just science mumbo jumbo, akin to alchemy or Skyrim transmutation.
Literally. Oh.
Now, I personally don't mind the holograms. If you're stealthy and patient, you can typically avoid them. As for dealing with the companions, you'll find each of them in different sections of the casino. Dog/God can be found in the kitchen having a mental breakdown, switching in between personalities like a game of tug-of-war. It's actually so bad that Dog wants to end it all, but due to a gas leak in the kitchen, if this man succeeds, he's gonna blow up the entire casino. You have quite a few options on how to deal with the duo, but most notable is using speech to give therapy, helping merge the two.
And that's what I did. Yeah, picking the third option, right? There is a third option, and it's neutral in a sense. I vibe with it. Let's see what he has to say about it here. I don't want to spoil it.
How to deal with the duo, but most notable is using speech to give therapy, helping merge the two conflicting personalities into one. This is without a doubt the absolute best ending. Or you could just share some motivational words.
Your life is nothing. You serve zero purpose. You should kill yourself now. Where are light?
Dean will be found in the Sierra Madre Theater, the same place he was asked to perform many, many years ago. He will be helpful or hostile depending on how you've treated him up until this point. But it's at this pivotal moment that he shares the true story behind the Sierra Madre. Although it's been Elijah pulling the strings of this heist, it was Dean who originally planned it 200 years ago. To make a long story short, Dean used to be friends with Frederick Sinclair, who was an extremely wealthy businessman. Eventually, Dean introduced Sinclair to a woman named Vera Keyes, a budding performer and actor, and someone you've actually seen before. Her image can be found on certain posters, and she's actually the lady that's the hologram when you first started the DLC. At first glance, Sinclair was down bad for Vera, so bad that he constructed the entire Sierra Madre and its surrounding villas as a personal fortress just for her. This is so when the bombs inevitably drop, Vera, himself, and any other wealthy individuals he invited would have a place to survive. However, things took a sour turn when Dean Domino developed an excessive grudge against Sinclair.
Rob the Sierra Madre, rip out its heart. Last chapter of Frederick Sinclair. Close the book.
And let me remind you, Sinclair never did anything to Dean. Dean's just an unhinged, narcissistic prick. He wanted to—
Like, yeah, that's the fucking funniest thing here, is that Sinclair is literally just shown to have existed. Like, Dean introduced Vera to Sinclair. Sinclair fell in love with Vera, and then they both collectively tried to fucking rob him for his wealth. He never did fucking anything to them. In fact, he was more than nice, I feel like, to both of these people. It was only after he found out about it that he, like, was just like, fuck everything, you know what, whatever. Because Dean went out of his way to undermine the entire fucking construction of the Sierra Madre. Like, what a fucking cock he was, and I don't know.
Sinclair never did anything to Dean. Dean's just an unhinged, narcissistic prick. He wanted to ruin Sinclair for the sole reason that he could. So Dean made his mission to blackmail Vera and coerce her into backstabbing Sinclair. Sinclair was already financially in the hole due to misfortunes, and building the casino for Vera didn't help either. Meaning if they succeeded in robbing his vault, they would have ruined the last little bit he had left to his name. However, this clearly didn't work out due to atomic bombs dropping the same night the casino was unveiled. It's also here Dean confesses to a truly evil stunt he pulled. You know when you first met Christine, she was in an auto dock and it severed her voice? Yeah, it was Dean who put her there.
I put her in the clinic, tuned her like an instrument. If she heals up, it's not going to be her voice speaking anymore.
When Dog brought Christine after getting caught in one of Elijah's traps, while she was still unconscious, Dean was the one that put her on the auto dock for vocal reconstructive surgery.
I actually know that.
The reason behind all of this makes sense when you finally meet back up with Christine inside the—
So I know what happens to Christine, right? But I actually didn't know it was Dean that also was the one that did that specifically too. Damn. Okay.
Surgery. The reason behind all of this makes sense when you finally meet back up with Christine inside the executive suites. You know how I said Christine was the least interesting character to start off? Well, that all changes at the end of the DLC. She can actually talk now.
Yeah.
You made it. Good. First to talk. I'll keep this quick in case my voice goes out.
Dean's sick gamble worked and she now has the voice of Vera Keyes. This is needed because to enter the vault, it's audibly encrypted to Vera's voice. Sinclair programmed it this way because again, this entire casino was made in her image. Which, speaking of Vera Keyes, you can also find her rotting corpse alongside holograms broadcasting her final moments. You also learn that Vera Keyes wasn't a drug addict. One of the ways Dean Domino was blackmailing her was by threatening to ruin her career, by exposing her medic's addiction to the press. But little did he know, she actually had a terminal illness. It's why she was taking so much.
What are you talking about? Medical report? Fyr wasn't the medics in Superstims. And here I thought she was trying to numb herself to the lights. Sinclair must have known, though. He was dense, not in that way. But that doesn't make any sense. If she was sick, dying, then why build this place? Why start a damn casino and have her be the lock?
This development is quite the twist, but what's equally intriguing is Christine's history. Earlier in the DLC, you can discover that she's a Brotherhood of Steel member through an intelligence check. But what the game didn't tell you is she is not your average member. She's part of a group called the Circle of Steel. And they were sent out into the wasteland to execute Father Elijah. However, Christine is also the long-lost lover of a certain companion in the Mojave.
Veronica.
Going back to Veronica for a second, on top of the quest that led to the foreshadowing of Dead Money and Father Elijah, you can ask if she's ever been in love.
Ever been nosy? I was, once. We were pretty young, but I like to think it was love. She left the Brotherhood. Wanted to put some distance between herself and her parents. Since our membership isn't open to outsiders, some members think that obligates all of us to procreate. You can guess which camp her parents belong to.
And this lines up with what Christine says about why she has a personal vendetta against Father Elijah.
He cut me off from someone I cared about a long time ago. He used his status to break us apart. So I had to find a new purpose. Same banner.
So yeah, they were lovers. You know, for the longest time, this was just a fan theory, but thankfully Chris Avalon outright confirmed it in a tweet back in 2019. Now, I wish that you could bring this up to Veronica after learning this, but sadly, you can't. This isn't because the developers didn't think of it, they just didn't have the time or resources to implement it. According to Tumblr posts made by Josh Sawyer in the past, the lack of this inclusion boiled down to, hey, voice acting is very expensive. Essentially, they had a budget and they had to stick to it. I mean, that's why Christine was mute for the entire beginning of the DLC, and Yuri Lowenthal voices like half the NPCs in the base game.
But not no more. Powder Gang is small time, man. I'm a winner. I won the motherfucking lottery.
Wait, is that actually fucking Sasuke's voice? I never caught on to that. Now that I'm like thinking about it, like listening to that, it fucking does kind of sound like him. Is that actually fucking Hold on.
Base game.
But not no more. Powder Gang is small time,
Same
man.
voice actor for Sasuke in the
I won the motherfucking lottery!
Motherfucker, I didn't know that. That's awesome. Now that I hear it, I can't unhear that. What the fuck?
It all depends on how you treated her. If you were mean to her or forced her to do uncomfortable things in this DLC, she's gonna try and kill you, and there's nothing you can say to stop her. Which, honestly valid, there's some really messed up shit you can say to her when she doesn't have her voice.
Come to throw me in the auto dock? Toss me back in the clinic where you found me?
With the companions taken care of, there's only one last thing you need to do, and that's opening the vault for Father Elijah. If Christine's still alive, she can open the door for you with her newly acquired voice, but if she's dead, you can just thread old music of Vera Keyes to get the same effect. But you should also be careful here because this vault isn't just a vault, it's a massive trap. You know how I said Dean's plan to rob Sinclair didn't work because the bombs dropped? Even if the bombs didn't drop, Dean's plan still wouldn't have worked. Sinclair might have been a simp, but he wasn't stupid. He figured out Dean and Vera's schemes and turned the vault into an elaborate trap for the both of them. That's why if you read the message on the terminal that says, "Don't open, dummy," it locks the courier in the vault and causes a game over ending.
The courier, lured by the promise of the Sierra Madre, could not escape.
But the reason there's a warning before you open the message instead of automatically sealing you inside is because Sinclair actually had a change of heart. Before Vera died of an overdose, she told Sinclair about Dean's plan and how she was manipulated into pulling it off. He was still understandably upset, but this was enough for him to go down to the vault and disable all the traps he laid out. But here's the thing, he didn't get to remove all of them, as his corpse can be found on the pipes right outside the vault, another victim of the cloud. When I saw Sinclair's dead body, I couldn't help but think that in a lot of ways, Dead Money's an apocalyptic retelling of The Great Gatsby by Scott Fitzgerald. Because in the end, just like Jay Gatsby, Sinclair died for a woman that never cared about him. Now, should the player avoid the death trap left by Sinclair, you have the final encounter with Father Elijah. With the vault wide open and no one left to oppose him, all he has to do is either destroy you or recruit you. So yeah, there's a secret ending where you can actually join forces with Father
I didn't know
Elijah.
about this.
Perhaps I was too quick to put a collar on a potential ally.
But to get this, you have to do a couple things in the base game. Remember how I said Veronica's personal quest foreshadows Dead Money and the whole bomb collar situation in Freeside? I never did tell you how it ends. Once you find the rangefinder, you can bring it back to Elder McNamara or Hardin, depending on who you chose to be Elder. But regardless of who you pick, they both give the same answer. Nothing will change their minds. They would rather die than disobey the Codex.
Give it a chance. For me. I can't stay here and watch us waste away.
I'm sorry.
We'll die out.
I know.
Idiots.
Come on. I can't listen to this anymore.
This leads to either Veronica staying with the Brotherhood
Makes
or
me
leaving to
cringe.
join the followers of the Apocalypse. But should she choose the latter, upon trying to join, the Brotherhood ends up killing all of them.
Oh no. No.
Sharing knowledge with an outsider organization, I knew Veronica couldn't be trusted. We tracked your movements a long way, but it was worth to catch her in the act. Passing Brotherhood secrets to outsiders is the lowest form of treason. In the name of the Elder, I hereby sentence you to death.
Hello?
I'm hit!
Of course they'd track me. Of course
Got
they'd
Enclave
assume the
Remnant
worst.
armor on?
Sure, I left them, but that didn't mean I'd ever be free of them. I should have known I was beaten before I began. I had to try, you know?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
Veronica's
I hate
get up
the
there
Mojave
is
chapter of the
confusing me.
Brotherhood, and I don't regret blowing them up ever. But this is important because if you've done this quest, talk to Veronica about everything Brotherhood related, and have a vilified reputation with the NCR, you can ask Father Elijah to let you join him in wiping the slate clean, unlocking a secret bad ending for the DLC.
Years later, when a mysterious blood-red cloud began to roll across the Mojave, then west toward the Republic, no one knew where it had come from. Only that it brought death in its wake. Attempts to find the source of the toxic cloud failed.
I don't have much to say about Elijah because he's just a comically evil man. There isn't a single redeeming quality about him, which is a shame because he's a genius when it comes to technology. If Elijah wasn't batshit crazy and Veronica could have changed the Brotherhood's ways, they could have been a really great force for the Mojave. Which, speaking of Veronica, one last time, after beating Dead Money, you can tell her that you met Father Elijah, which is really neat.
You did? Where? Oh my god, I mean, I thought... I don't even know what I thought might have happened to him. But you don't have a "this is good news" expression on your face. You killed him? But it doesn't matter. He died when we all retreated to Hidden Valley. I didn't expect to see him again.
No one gives a shit that he's dead.
No one did.
Although
he's
I'm still
fucking
kind of
crazy.
bummed that we couldn't bring up Christine, but hey, we know the reasons why. Now, I did not plan on speaking about Dead Money for as long as I did, but I wanted to give a lot of details because understanding Dead Money makes the other 3 DLCs that much better.
Cryo launcher?
There's a lot of
Damn.
questions that only get answered in those later entries. For example, where did the cloud come from and why is it in the Sierra Madre? Who made the overpowered holotech and hollow vending machines? Why did the workers have to cut themselves out of suits using kitchen knives? But in the meanwhile, it's time for us to take a trip to Zion Valley.
All those
talk
questions and
about-
more. Probably after this one.
I like the low road, free from the care and strife.
I gotta say, I really like the aesthetic of Honest Arts. I wish they had a little bit more in it, just in terms of like the area space and whatnot. You got that like that big Zion Valley feel. I wish there was a little bit more of that, but it is what it is. It's still a great DLC. I love the aesthetic of it. A little bit slower paced, you know. That's why like it's either for worst quote unquote DLC again, Dead Money or Honest Arts, and But like that doesn't mean either of them are bad in my mind. It's just those are the two weakest. I really enjoy Honest Hearts, even though it probably is one of the weakest, alongside Dead Money.
I broke free from the care and strife.
If you want to know how I feel about Honest Hearts, here you go.
Ron James.
Scream if you love Honest Hearts.
Joshua Graham definitely carries it. That's for sure.
But in all seriousness, I like Honest Hearts. It's a DLC that's more of a slow burn than the others, and it's uniquely different for Fallout because you're exploring a place that's hardly been touched by radiation, which is neat to see because although New Vegas's graphics are a bit dated, Zion still finds a way to be beautiful. Like, it actually rains here. That does not happen in the base game. On top of the gorgeous environment, Honest Hearts tackles some interesting themes and conflicts you don't see a lot of video games do tastefully. The major one being religion, because at its core, this DLC is about how two men's religious ideologies clash to decide the best outcome for the land and people around them.
You may not be concerned over matters of faith, but this is a case where faith and practicality coincide.
Now, interestingly enough, Honest Hearts is the only major narrative DLC to not be directed by Chris Avellone. This one was directed by Josh Sawyer, which I actually got to see him at PAX East 2024. Hey, that's
cool.
Me and my boy Bebo. He was part of a panel talking about historical accuracy in video games, specifically the thought process and considerations that went into making his latest project, Pentiment. Now, this is relevant to Honest Hearts because his passion for history is reflected in a lot of the small details within this DLC. Here's a great example. There's a weapon you'll come across called the .45 auto pistol. It's a nice gun that was added with this DLC, but this weapon isn't here just because it looks cool. It actually makes sense in the context of the story and real life. See, Joshua Graham, a man we will talk about here soon, can be found inspecting and repairing a near infinite amount of these pistols. As Joshua meticulously tends to each weapon, it's evident they hold a deeper meaning, because not only is this animation unique to his character, but the game allows you to ask him about it.
This type of .45 automatic pistol was designed by one of my tribe almost 400 years ago. Learning its use is a new Canaanite rite of passage.
The 400-year-old person he's referring to is a real-life Mormon by the name of John Moses Browning, which shout out to the Fallout wiki for this one. I only learned this because I was trying to spawn in the weapon and needed the form ID. But this man designed the real-life version of this gun known as the Colt M1911, but you probably know it as the starting weapon from Black Ops Zombies.
1911.
It's the small details like this that really shows the director putting historical thought behind the characters, because Joshua could have used any weapon, but having this specific one makes so much sense given his background. But you didn't sign up for a history lesson. You want to know what makes Honest Hearts magical, and for this, we gotta talk about the base game yet again. I alluded to how Honest Hearts was foreshadowed in the base
Where's
game.
New Canaan anyway?
But there's a lot more build-up than just that.
Birdman
Ringo,
walks,
a character you probably forgot about after saving his ass in Good Springs, talks about moving on to a place called New Canaan.
I'm getting ready to run a caravan up towards Utah.
Not the best
There's
place
a town
anymore.
called New Canaan, which is supposed to be pretty prosperous.
And the ruthless businesswoman named Alice McLafferty talks about how Mormons from New Canaan control the majority of the northern trade routes.
Well, the gunrunners continue to dominate the weapons market, and the Mormon traders from New Canaan control the majority of the northern routes.
These are very subtle mentions, but the biggest foreshadowing comes from Caesar's Legion. Caesar is a fairly open guy to the courier if you bring a servile attitude and don't disrespect him.
I like the servile attitude. Keep it up.
But there is one thing he refuses to talk about, and that's the Burned Man. Any mention of this individual will make him hostile and threaten the player to change the subject.
And I've heard it's a bad idea to tempt the wrath of Caesar. Change the subject.
Thankfully, there are other members of the Legion that are willing to talk about this legendary entity. A slave named Siri talks about how people view him as a vengeful spirit, and many Legion NPCs bring up that slaves have been spreading stories of the Burned Man.
Some of the slaves have been spreading stories about the Burned Man again.
Other members, such as Otho and Antony, give the player surface-level knowledge of the Burned Man, with Antony outright refusing to believe he's alive.
He's dead. No man, no matter how tough, could survive a fall into the Grand Canyon.
Whereas higher-ranking members, such as Lucius and the walking corpse Volpes and Colta, give more granular details about him. Lucius educates us that the Burned Man was Caesar's former advisor and general before the Legion suffered a devastating defeat at the First Battle of Hoover Dam. However, it's Volpes that ties this all together, talking about how the Burned Man was a religious fellow based out of Utah.
Ah, yes. We are forbidden from speaking his true name. He was a shaman of some kind before he met Caesar, a holy man from out of the Utah.
Again, foreshadowing for the Honest Hearts DLC. Now, if it wasn't abundantly clear, Joshua Graham, the guy in the bandages I was talking about earlier, is the Burn Man. But how you end up meeting him is an interesting story. Just like every other DLC, you pick up a radio signal that sends you to a faraway land. This time it's a remote cave up north where a man named Jed Masterson is recruiting for the Happy Trails Caravan Company, with the goal to make a trip to Utah. Within this cave you can find Jed, 2 caravan guards, and our boy Ricky, who foreshadowed the Vault 22 plotline. I really like the small detail that if you've worked with Alice McLafferty, one of the NPCs that foreshadows this DLC, Jed will make a comment about her because even he knows how ruthless she is.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I recognize you. Yeah, you're Alice McLafferty's rising star, ain't you? You sure you want to be here? McLafferty's non-competes are pretty rigid.
And I know we've already spent a long time talking about Ricky, but I do love that his character is just like Fantastic from Helios 1. 2 bumbling buffoons that have grifted their way to a lucrative job.
I'm working on some top secret shit I can't even tell you about. It's so mind-blowing.
And just like Fantastic, you can exploit Ricky for...
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if he's about to talk about it. The thing is like you can tell him to fuck off, or you can exploit him to carry more gear for you into the canyon. It's really cool the route, like each individual routes that you can take with these characters just to like benefit yourself or benefit your group or benefit the world around you. Not even benefit, but like effect, I guess is the word, because sometimes it's not a benefit at all, you know?
Shit I can't even tell you about. It's
Mr. Fantastic is a great character.
And just like Fantastic, you can exploit Ricky for your own personal gain if you don't snitch on him.
Hey, why you gotta go and be like that? Fuck! Look, this is a sweet gig for me. Don't go fucking it up. What are you after anyways?
Or you can get him kicked off the trip where he spouts a rather prophetic line.
Fine. You win, asshole. Enjoy leading the expedition into a fucking ambush. Hope you all die!
Now, funny enough, this DLC pulled a Fallout 4 because you can't kill the NPCs in this cave. I didn't understand this the first time I played until you realize they can't die because they have to move the plot along for you in like 5 minutes. Yeah,
True.
Ricky's line about getting killed in an ambush is a...
And I think those are the only characters that you can't just outright fucking kill eventually, because like literally they die anyway.
5 minutes. Yeah, Ricky's line about getting killed in an ambush is a scripted event when you start the DLC. And no, it doesn't matter how hard you try, you can't save these poor souls.
Stella! No. She died.
Like, even if you manage to kill all the enemies, the NPCs still end up dying due to a script in place. This doesn't feel like New Vegas game design to limit the player like this, but I can't say it's not the first time this has happened. Beyond the beef, one of my favorite questlines in the entire game has a character named Chauncey, who is forcibly killed by an assassin. And there's nothing you can do to stop it, it's a scripted event. While I don't like this, I understand why it was done, and this is so you end up meeting a man named Follows Chalk, that introduces you to none other than the Burn Man himself, Joshua Graham.
We should have given you a better welcome on your first visit to Zion. But from what I hear, the Whitelegs beat us to it. I don't know if you were close to the other members of your group, but you have my sympathy. I pray for the safety of all good people who come to Zion, even Gentiles. But we can't expect God to do all the work.
This might be a little controversial to say, but I think this guy single-handedly backpacks this entire DLC.
Oh, he does,
Joshua is the most charming, intriguing, and flat-out badass character out of all of the DLCs. If it wasn't for Joshua Graham, I don't think Honest Hearts would have as good of a reputation as it does. Because while the characters, stories, and lore of this DLC is really great, the gameplay loop leaves a bit to be desired.
A little bit, yeah.
I'm not even doing a bit right now. This is like a real quest where you take a calf to its mother. Like, what are we doing? As for Joshua, I've fought many people in New Vegas for various reasons, but none have made me second guess my choices like Joshua Graham. Try to threaten this man or his people, and this is the one and final warning he will give you.
If you harm Daniel or any of the sorrows of dead horses, I will find you. Make no mistake. God willing, you will not leave this valley. Lastly, waging war against good people is bad for the soul. This may not seem important to you now, but it's the most important thing I've said.
This is perhaps the coldest fucking line that's ever come out of an NPC's mouth within this game. Oh, and he means it. Like, one time I tried to fight Joshua for the hell of it, and this is what happened.
You've called down the wrath.
Now, the goal of this DLC is to make it back home to the Mojave since, you know, the caravan trip was a complete failure. But there's a slight issue. Josh can't spare the resources to aid you until his people are taken care of.
The bad news is that we can't help you right now. Not with everything that's going on.
As there's a brewing gang war amongst the tribals here, which involve 3 major players. The first is the Dead Horses. These guys aren't from Zion, but they are in the valley at Joshua's request, as Joshua is the acting war chief for them.
I am the acting war chief for the Dead Horses. They look up to me for such matters, but I only have the authority they give me.
The second is the Sorrows. They are natives of Zion, born, raised, and sustained here through the mysterious actions of someone they call the Father. Lastly is the Whitelegs, a marauding faction that's been on a rampage for a while. They are responsible for the complete destruction of New Canaan, which was Joshua Graham's original home, and they're looking to finish off the remaining New Canaan survivors who fled to Zion. This is why when your caravan arrived in Zion, it was instantly obliterated. These, pardon my language, savages are on a bloodlusted mission to destroy all of Zion.
Oh, they are.
The Whitelegs want to join the Legion. Caesar's rite of passage is the destruction of the New Canaanites, almost assuredly because of me.
So this leads us to make a fundamental decision. How do you deal with a situation like this? Well, the game gives you 2 choices to consider. The first plan of action is to flee the valley and let the Whitelegs take over. This is why you're sent on fetch quests around Zion to get supplies that will aid in this great escape. The genius behind this plan is Joshua's friend, fellow Mormon, and missionary, Daniel.
The Dead Horses told me details about the attack on your caravan. A stranger's sympathy might not count for much, but for what it's worth, I'm sorry.
Daniel is from New Canaan, just like Joshua, and saw firsthand the brutality of the Whitelegs, something that weighs heavy on his mind.
We lost it. Our community, everything. But the past is gone. We have to look forward.
This guilt over what happened to New Canaan and what's now happening to the Sorrows is the driving factor for Daniel's plan. But while he means well, he is extremely misguided and sometimes a straight-up dick.
She's also a midwife and has 3 kids of her own, so she'll be more tolerant of your whining.
The first issue is that Daniel has a savior complex. He feels the need and responsibility to protect, in his words,
the ignorant and the innocent.
Because he believes Joshua and himself are the only people that can.
The Lord helps those who help themselves. But the Sorrows don't know how. Joshua and I do. Since I got them into this mess, I need to get them out.
Which
Daniel really does have a savior complex, I want to say. And also the way he wants to go about it too. He wants to constantly keep fleeing conflict. And while I understand he wants to keep the heart of his people pure, like the soul clean kind of thing, you can't just keep fleeing your problems like this against a foreign enemy like this. Like they want your people dead. You know what I mean? Like that's what they want. You can't keep running forever. Like that's the problem.
Since I got them into this mess, I need to get them out.
Which to me reeks of hypocrisy because he says his involvement with other tribes has led to their demise.
The New Canaanites interfered in their lives. We did that. And we've done it before, with others. Always with good intentions, but things go wrong.
Everywhere he travels for missionary work eventually leads to the destruction of that tribe. Examples being the Tar Walkers and the Crazy Horns.
We lost the Tar Walkers and the Crazy Horns. We did our best, but we made mistakes. We paid for them, but they paid more.
I understand he has done good for these tribes, but like, bro, at this point, you are the problem. While his motivations may stem from a genuine desire to protect others, his actions often reflect a selfish approach that disregards the agency and resilience of the tribes. It's always innocence this, innocence that, but he never considers what the tribe itself wants and needs. To my knowledge, you never hear any of the Sorrows bring up innocence, it's only Daniel. Throughout the story, you'll find him belittling or infantilizing the people he supposedly wants to protect. Straight up hiding the deaths of loved ones in the case of Walking Cloud, and being a complete ass to the player.
Her husband didn't make it. He died protecting their children from a Whiteleg attack. Do not tell Waking Cloud.
How dare he? What gives him the right? I thought Daniel was my friend, but he cares nothing for the Sorrows.
For example, at the beginning of the DLC, you're sent on a fetch quest to get supplies. If you do this, you're promised a map so you can make your way back to the Mojave, but upon delivering the items, Daniel wants you to do even more.
These supplies are a godsend. But if we're going to evacuate Zion without drawing more Whiteleg attention, I need you to go back into the valley.
And if you mention that you've already upheld your end of the bargain, he has this to say.
Okay, you better listen close because I'm not going to repeat myself. You were not invited here. This is not your home. Complaining to me now? Also a mistake. I'm not going to add sin upon sin by listening to your grumbling.
Daniel, are you stupid? Fuck you mean we weren't invited? We came with the Happy Trails Caravan Company, a group you've traded with plenty of times according to Joshua.
Happy Trails. I remember. They were good friends. I pray for the safety of all good people who come to Zion.
Overall, to me, it seems like Daniel views the sorrows through the lens of his ideal world rather than reality. He desires to shield this supposed innocence, not necessarily for its long-term benefit, but because it aligns with his vision of moral purity. Not to mention, this goes against the sorrows' teachings. I won't go into the whole plotline about the father in the cave, but it's straight up one of the best stories you can find in all of New Vegas, if not the entire series.
It's very good.
Basically, there was a U.S. Marine named Randall Clark who survived the bombs and made Zion his home. He defended the place against the Vault 22 invaders we talked about at the beginning of the video and made many bases within the caves here. Eventually, a group of children made their way out to Zion, and these children, under the invisible protection of Clark, would over time grow to become the tribe known as the Sorrows. The loving, caring, and seemingly innocent behavior of the Sorrows is because Randall Clark advocated that philosophy on them through leaving notes. But you see, there's a very important thing he said in one of those final notes. I tell them to be kind to each other and modest. I tell them to never hurt each other. But if someone else comes along and tries to hurt them, to strike back with righteous anger. Randall Clark would have wanted them to fight back against the Whitelegs because this motherfucker fought hard for them to be here. Because
Literally.
He understood there's a difference between being peaceful and harmless. So this brings us to our other choice, Joshua Graham. Upon meeting him, he makes his stance pretty clear on how he intends to deal with it.
I am preparing the dead horses for war.
Yeah, he does.
And Daniel is preparing the Sorrows for other things.
Pussy things.
Out of the two choices given, I do agree with Joshua's plan more, but this doesn't mean that this choice is necessarily right or the best outcome.
So, yeah, and you have to kind of talk Joshua down in a sense to an extent. When he goes for it and you agree with him fully, he's talking about just genocide outright. Get the fuck rid of them. They're savages. They can't learn. They'll never learn. It's more righteous this way to put them out of their misery. It's literally how he is viewing it. So you almost if you want to go the Paragon route with it, you almost need to talk Joshua down a step or two. You know what I mean? And you have to think too, with what he's seen, with what he's done as the Burned Man, right? In Caesar's Legion, but also the fact that his entire home, New Canaan, was burned after the fact. Yeah, his mindset isn't justified, but he lets his anger cloud his judgment.
I agree with Joshua's plan more, but this doesn't mean that this choice is necessarily right or the best outcome.
Yeah, exactly.
Siding with Joshua is a shade deeper because on one hand, you have someone who appears to be a man of God. Every time you talk to him, he mentions that he's only doing what
but
the
then
Lord
he's
would want
talking
him to
about
do.
killing in the name of, you know what I mean?
But when done righteously, it's just a chore.
Yeah, there it
like
is.
Any other.
Killing in the name
Practiced
of.
hands make for short work. And the good Lord knows there's much to be done here.
But when you get to know him, you realize he's not
cold
exactly
as
the
fuck.
righteous man trying to protect the innocent, but he's still a vicious warlord who's using the veil of Christianity to justify his brutality in the eyes of God. That's not me saying this. He admits this outright depending on one of the endings you do.
I want to have my revenge against him, against Caesar. I want to call it my own, to make my anger God's anger. To justify the things I've done. Sometimes I tell myself that these wildfires never stop burning, but I'm the one who starts them. Not God, not them. I can always see it in my mind, the warmth and the heat. It will always be a part of me. But not today.
Joshua is an angry man, in a lot of ways, rightfully so. But he's not prepping for war. He's prepping for a genocide.
That's it.
Make no mistake about why we are here.
Yeah.
This is an extermination.
A lot of
there
the
it is,
biblical
plain and
quotes Joshua
simple.
will use throughout
We
the
are
DLC
getting rid of a
involve
fucking
themes about
pox,
revenge,
that's it.
vengeance, and violence. You realize he's using his faith
insect.
to justify his cruelty and anger. His anger at the Whitelegs, his anger at the Legion, who the Whitelegs want to join, and most of all, anger within himself. And that's one of the reasons I love Joshua Graham. This is just great character writing. Because despite all of his flawed contradictions, he realizes that although he's trying to be a better man than he used to be, he can't do that if he lets his anger consume him and those around him. That's why I think the best ending is letting Joshua defend Zion for the Sorrows, but show them that they are just defending the land, not exterminating them. By sparing the Whitelegs leader salt upon wounds, this gives the Sorrow the ability to defend their land while also giving Joshua a chance at true redemption. Something he is painfully craving. Or if your character is canonically racist, you can just tell him to pop a cap and general gobbledygook.
It's pretty good. General gobbledygook
I
is
wish
crazy.
I could talk more about Honest Hearts because there is so much to this DLC. Like, hands down, the Survivalist rifle is absolutely busted with JHP rounds. There's a quest where you take drugs and kill a flaming bear. And exploring the caves to find notes left by Randall Clark was genuinely some of the best storytelling I've seen out of these games. But honestly, if we went more in depth, we would be here all day. So, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling some... And let the world go by.
Impregnate you? What? Do you want to make me vomit inside my tank?
Alright, this is probably going to be the shortest chapter because I have nothing but good things to say about Old War Blues. It's just simply great. It's fun, wacky, and actually funny at times. Although the humor is a bit absurd, when you give into the insanity, it becomes quite enjoyable.
I can hear your penis-tipped feet trotting around.
Unlike the previous entries where it's fairly story-driven, this one places a huge emphasis on exploration. It's why when you beat the DLC without exploring any of Big Mountain, the narrator low-key scolds you.
Although, truth be told, the courier had barely explored the crater in an attempt to rush through and be done with the whole thing.
The game is literally telling you, hey dummy, we worked hard on this, go experience it. The game also makes it easy on you to come back, legit giving you a permanent gun that when fired beams you back to this place. It also gives you the best player home you could ask for with personal robots and machines that are able to produce any service you could ever need. From your own personal doctor to infinitely clean water and even a little fuck-ass toaster that wants to destroy the world.
Yes! Yes! Soon my work will be complete. Soon the world will burn in nuclear fire.
But you see, getting to this point requires the courier to go through a bit of drama and a hell of a lot of trauma.
Drama? There is no drama in science.
Old War Blues opens with you finding a crashed satellite that upon interacting with, teleports you to a place called Big Mountain. However, you didn't get here without giving up something, and that something is your organs. I shit you not, upon reaching this place, your brain, heart, and spine were harvested in an attempt to lobotomize you.
But what of its brain? We scooped that out. We don't even know where we left it.
This should have been the end of the courier and a game over screen, but you see, someone unintentionally saved your life trying to end it. Benny, the man in the checkered suit who shot you at the beginning of the base game, is the reason you didn't turn into a lobotomite. Since you were missing a vital piece of your brain, the automatic procedure that would have turned you into a lobotomite course corrected and performed a successful brain extraction. But without a brain, you're not able to leave this place unless you do the bidding of a bunch of crazy scientists that reside in a place called the Think Tank. This is the turn of events that kick off Old War Blues, but I'm not here to talk about the main story of this DLC. Like, yeah, the story between the scientists and
Dr. Mobius
is pretty interesting and has a unique twist at the end. However, the real magic of this DLC is walking around the crater,
the world
and discovering
building,
all the little secrets and ways this place put a lot of things you've already experienced into motion. Here's what I mean. Cazadors. We love to hate these bug bastards. Your average Deathclaw is a little cutie compared to these instruments of death and destruction. But the base game never tells you where they're from. In the Z14 DNA splicing lab, you can find the birthplace of the Cazador. Dr. Boros, one of the scientists here in the Big Empty, is the man responsible for their creation. The same goes for Night Stalkers. These rare creatures originate from here in the Big Empty. And I love that you can actually splice things yourself and create your own abominations from the wasteland.
Holy shit.
I feel different.
There's tons of stories just like that within this DLC, like how the deadly spores from Vault 22 made their way out to Zion were originally made here at the X-22 Botanical Garden. You can find the original spore carrier called Patient Zero. But today, I want to focus on how Old War Blues connects to the other DLCs. Christine and Elijah from Dead Money brought up how they visited this place along with the mysterious courier. And Joshua Graham very subtly mentions that the Legion knew about the Big Empty.
As if Death Valley weren't enough. They had the Divide and Big Empty to deal with.
So let's thread the clues together and find the story that happened here. Firstly, I want to talk about the Sierra Madre. Almost all the advanced technology that was in that casino was developed in Big Mountain. The holotech that led to the creation of the holo rifle, vending
the harnesses,
machines, and
cosmic knives, everything
can be traced back to the Z38 and
holo machines,
centers. At the Z38, you can find holograms walking around and posters of the Sierra Madre. Within the ruins of the Y0 Center, you learn Sinclair was able to afford the technology by allowing Big Empty to perform, in their words, seemingly innocent experiments. Which, they lied. As you venture out into the crater, you'll quickly realize that the experiments here were callously cruel and sometimes straight up evil. Like, one of the scientists just casually gloats about how he used to make his dog OD on drugs for the hell of it.
And no matter how chemmed the food, he would always eat it, and his tail would wag, even while you know, I'm having the most perplexing feeling squiggling through my biogel.
So yeah, you want to know what the seemingly harmless experiment was for the Sierra Madre? It was the toxic cloud. And you know firsthand, that shit is anything but harmless. By visiting the 43 Innovative Toxins plant, you discover that this was the birthplace of the cloud. But this gets even worse because Sinclair quickly realized that the cloud was harmful, so he asked for more technology to keep his workers safe. And you want to know what these scumbags did? They did another experiment on top of an experiment by sending over experimental hazmat suits. If you go to the hazmat testing ground, you can still find one available for the courier to claim. And upon wearing it, you realize you've seen this before. This is the same suit the ghost people were wearing at the Sierra Madre. I'm telling you, all the suffering that you experienced at the Sierra Madre was because of these floating brains. I love seeing the way all this shit connects. It's so cool. While this might explain the technological wonders of the Sierra Madre, it doesn't give the story of why Christine and Elijah were here. See, after Elijah
you can find that out too.
He explored a place called the Divide, the West Ciphers, and eventually made his way to here, the Big Empty. But according to the think tank, Elijah was captured just like we were, but escaped in only a few seconds.
This human, I can't believe it. He broke out of the think tank in seconds.
After that, the Big Empty became his big-ass playground. He discovered the holotech, Saturnite alloy, bootleg Securitrons, and way more. Honestly, Dr. O explains this whole ordeal with Elijah way better than I could.
Then he went for Yangtze, got bomb collars, then started practicing on the subjects that were still there until he got the right frequency. We were sending robots to stop him, and he was slicing and cutting through their shells with some souped-up laser gun like they were cheese paper. When he hacked into the mainframe, A tried to stop him and got fried. Me? He rerouted my processors to take control of the train network here. If you see the tunnels with the trains plowed into them, you can thank our visitor for that. He wrecked the whole place.
As for Christine, Elijah's bomb diversion caused her to get captured and hauled away to the Y-17 medical facility. That's why when you enter this facility, you can find her Brotherhood recon armor. She was locked in a cage, experimented on via painful neurosurgery, and due to this physical trauma, prevented her from being able to read correctly. If it wasn't for a mysterious courier we will talk about here soon, she would have been stuck here forever. I think it's really cool that you can find all these mini stories if you explore the crater. You could easily spend 2 hours alone just gushing about everything.
Oh, you can. Oh, he's got the pimp boy.
But
nice.
Just like all good things, they must come to an end. And with that, let's talk about
Lonesome Road. Death claws and fucking ghouls, man.
Lonesome Road is the final narrative DLC made for Fallout New Vegas, taking place in an area called the Divide. This location was hinted at by multiple characters in the prior DLCs, building up the sense of mystery and anticipation.
Whatever happened at the Divide was too much for them to handle.
Just like Dead Money, it follows a linear story, but with the twist that you can return to the Mojave anytime you want, and this design choice will be an important plot point later. The story kicks off with a message from Ulysses, a figure who's been following your actions throughout the base game and prior DLCs. He invites you to the Divide, a place ravaged by a series of cataclysmic events.
There's your signal. Faint, but there. You came. Good. Curious, maybe.
Upon entering the Divide, you realize it's unlike any other place you've seen before. You could really say it's a wasteland within a wasteland, with catastrophic storms that were caused by, you guessed it, those damn scientists at the Big Empty. Any person willing to enter this place would have to be brave or just straight up stupid.
Oh.
One of the standout elements of Lonesome Road is the return of EDE, or Eddie, your trusty iBot companion from the base game. I never had a chance to talk about Eddie in any of my Fallout videos, but he's an Enclave iBot whose original goal was to make it to Navarro, an Enclave base seen in Fallout 2. This clearly didn't happen, as you can find him broken down in Prim, where the player character can fix him up and join forces as a companion.
You got that old robot up and running again?
How's it working out for you?
However, in this DLC, you encounter a clone of your original Eddie, who plays a crucial role in both the story and gameplay. Eddie is the primary way Ulysses contacts you throughout the DLC, and this robot is the only way you can progress through certain areas, making him a trusty ally as you navigate the hazardous terrain of the Divide. His presence also adds an emotional layer to the DLC as you uncover audio logs that shed light on Eddie's past, creator, and connection to the Enclave.
Dad? Hey, Dad! Check out this robot I found!
Careful, Tommy. I've never seen a robot like that before. It might be dangerous.
He's not dangerous. Look, he's hurt. Can we take him home, Dad? Maybe Mom can fix him.
And this characterization worked for me because it's a part towards the end of the DLC where Ulysses steals your mans.
Big Mountain Access Code. Ulysses. Command override. Navarro.
This also screws you over if you had EDE carrying all your shit like I did. Now I'm over encumbered. And I was fired up about it.
That was annoying.
Me and Eddie at that point had literally been to hell and back together in such a short time.
Yeah.
Gameplay wise, Lonesome Road doesn't pull any punches.
I will say it does feel quite like jarring when Eddie just gets fucking like taken from you like that, like yeeted from you. It's sad, man. You feel like, oh fuck, like that's my boy gone. And when he was carrying all your shit, all your anti-mat ammo and whatnot, yeah, it's a pain in the fucking ass. All your rockets. Son of a bitch.
Hell and back together in such a short time. Gameplay wise, Lonesome Road doesn't pull any punches. There's a reason why the game wants you to be level 25 and above. The enemies are fierce, from powerful abominations like the iconic Death Claws to a new enemy type called Tunnelers, which
Those
are really
things
just
fucking
tougher
suck.
reskin Vault 22 Spore carriers, but hey, I'm not complaining. The Tunnelers can be terrifying at first due to them emerging from the ground and ambushing you in numbers. They're tough, but if you have a decent build, which you should at this point, you'll be able to take them down with ease. But the critters of the Divide aren't the only things out to kill you. There are humanoid
The marked men,
NPCs
not the
called
burn
marked
men.
men, which are
That's
former
it.
NCR and Legion soldiers who have been horribly scarred and mutated by radiation. At a closer look, you can visibly see how the treacherous environment of the Divide has flayed their skin off, leaving them as these grotesque and rage husks of their former selves. These enemies provide a constant challenge, requiring you to stay on your toes and adapt your strategies. Like, these guys pack some firepower. They fight with some of the best in-game weapons available and will use the terrain to their advantage. Like here, this piece of shit is raining rockets down from the high ground. And this one used a stealth boy to try to sneak up on me. And you know what? I like the challenge here. There's also a slight gameplay change added within Lonesome Road. One of the unique tools you acquire is the laser detonator. This device is crucial for navigating the Divide, as it allows you to blow up old nuclear warheads that block your path, unlocking mandatory and sometimes secret areas. It also has the added benefit that you can wipe out entire sections of enemies if you time it right. Which, side note, this weapon is also straight up the most busted thing in the entire game through glitches. There's an ammo swap bug that allows you to do stupid shit like this if you want. But honestly, this glitch applies to really any weapon. You want a shotgun that shoots rockets? Here you go.
What the fuck? I've never heard of this glitch. How do you do this? What?
A flare gun that launches nukes like an airstrike? Boom. Or better yet, a Gatling gun that spits out tiny tot mini nukes. If you can think it, this shit can do it. I love the jank in this game. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of Lonesome Road. But when people talk about this DLC, they don't really mention much of the stuff above. It's fun, but Lonesome Road gets its notoriety from its lore implications and main antagonist, Ulysses.
The bear and bull.
Ulysses is a controversial figure for a reason. Throughout the DLC, he
Ulysses
comes off
the
as
blabber.
a wise, philosophical character
Brought the bear, then the bull.
who constantly criticizes your actions and the larger factions in the Mojave. He talks a big game about the importance of preserving the past and dangers of forgetting history. But let's be real, his entire philosophy is riddled with contradictions and flat-out hypocrisy.
The bear, greater than the bull.
First off, Ulysses blames you for the destruction of the Divide. He holds you responsible for triggering the chain of events that led to the area's devastation. And he acts like you knowingly and maliciously caused this disaster, but the truth is, it was all an accident.
You destroyed a nation taking its first breath. A place that could have been my home. Now, I
I'll destroy yours.
According to Lonesome Road, you actually delivered a package to the Divide way before you got shot in the head by Benny. This package you delivered contained an explosive device that nobody, including you, knew about, which detonated the nuclear warheads here. Ulysses insists that you bear the full weight of this catastrophe, which to me seems unfair and overlooks the fact that you were just a courier doing your job.
Who delivered a package? It was a device, a detonator, one I'd never seen before. And you are responsible for what happened after, when the device opened, started to speak. When it did, the Divide answered back. Those missiles you've seen, buried in their silos, they exploded beneath the ground, cracked the landscape, sand, ash, the dead. The Divide skies became a graveyard.
Which to me is funny because remember back to Honest Hearts and the White Legs? The reason the White Legs wanted to join Caesar was because of Ulysses when he served the Legion.
Literally.
I walked the Great Salt Lake as Kaiser's eye, then his hand. I asked the White Legs to destroy a people with ancestry going back thousands of years. Another death of history, lost to time. You must be willing to kill anyone. Children, mothers, the weak, elders.
Yeah, this guy used to be part of Caesar's Legion as a Frumentari and was the man who destroyed New Canaan. When we did it, it was an accident. This motherfucker destroyed a civilization on purpose. But there's another Ulysses moment in the story that rubs me the wrong way.
Not now.
As you play through the story, eventually you make your way to the Ashton Silo Control Station. The only way you can beat this DLC is by launching the nuke here. You literally cannot beat the DLC you paid for unless you do this. But Ulysses chastises you for this.
What happened here can happen again. You already proved it. What you did in Ashton, the silo there.
Because like I said at the beginning, you could have left this DLC at any point. You technically didn't have to launch the missile. You could have walked away and returned back to the Mojave. It's supposed to be the super meta commentary on how the player does shit without thinking about it. But to me, it just comes off as being very shallow. Like, dog, it's a video game. It's the final DLC, and I paid money for it. I want to see how it ends. I didn't talk about it earlier, but this just reminds me of how Father Elijah chastises you for using your Pip-Boy, calling it Robco trash like he's better than it.
You're a piece of
but then he also has a Pip-Boy.
It can latch onto the signal of the collars.
As if he's making this meta comment about how the player just always follows the navigation without thinking.
That thing on your wrist, it's a convenience. It tells you where to go, what to do, dulls your brain.
But it's so hypocritical because he himself uses a Pip-Boy, and he's not able to accomplish any of his goals without stealing pre-war technology and utilizing it. Tangent aside, I hate that this DLC is trying to make the player feel guilty for things they have no control over. And I can't stand this guy's droning voice.
You've answered your own question. And you'll die with that question on your lips.
Bro just be yapping, and that says a lot.
Yeah,
I be yapping for hours on end in these silly little videos.
Ulysses the yapper. I said the same thing.
The final climactic showdown with Ulysses. Because he's so depressed, he plans on launching nukes at the Mojave, although you can stop him by fighting him physically or verbally, depending on the character's experiences, if you found his holotapes, and general feelings towards this character. While I might personally dislike Ulysses and find him annoying, I think that might have been the intention. The guy has clearly lost his marbles, and like an individual stricken with grief, he's looking for someone to blame why his world is turned to shit. It just happens to be us, the player character, since we unintentionally destroyed his previous home. He's a misguided and angry man, but thankfully through speech, you can talk no jutsu him and get him to come down to his senses. I like that even after the DLC ends, you can find him chilling on a ledge and get him to open up more about his thoughts happening in the Mojave. Overall, Lonesome Road is not a bad DLC. It's not my favorite, it's probably my least favorite, but it's still a banger, and well worth playing. Plus, I genuinely believe if you play this DLC, you'll walk away from it with a different perspective than I had. Also, there's some really fun weapons introduced here, along with potentially 3 new areas that can open up. The Ashton Silo missile creates a place called the Courier's Mile, and it's a great endgame challenge for players that want to flex their combat prowess. Nuking the NCR unlocks the Long 15, where you can kill an NPC, giving you some of the coolest power armor in the game. Whereas nuking the Legion unlocks the Dry Wells, where you can kill an NPC that gives you armor that's almost identical to the one found on Legate Linnaeus. Something you can't can't normally get. I also like the small touch that depending on the faction the courier is most closely aligned to, before beating the DLC, causes him to get an outfit that represents that faction. So yeah, Lonesome Road is quite an experience. If I had to rank all the DLCs from best to worst, despite them all being pretty great, it would look something like this. Old World Blues at number 1, Dead Money at number 2, Honest Hearts at number 3, and Lonesome Road at number 4.
And I could agree with that. I could agree with that. This is his personal. I know that a lot of people tie these two. Lonesome Road would be number 2. Like these two would tie for last, and Lonesome Road would be number 2. But I think Old World Blues is universally just always number 1 for everyone. It's a great DLC. Nothing wrong with it. But yeah, no, I mean, there's nothing wrong with this either. This is completely believable, completely scalable. Obviously, everyone has different taste, different opinion. A lot of them are all like, I will say, yeah, I will say for me personally, I will say probably, yeah, Lonesome Road. I do Lonesome Road, I do Dead Money, Honest Hearts, and then Old World Blues. I would just switch these two around for my personal taste, but that's about it.
2, Honest Hearts at number 3, and Lonesome Road at number 4.
Gunrunner's Arsenal.
Now, I would be a little upset with myself if I didn't mention Gunrunner's Arsenal. It's a DLC that's a lot of unique weapons and mods to existing weapons to bring players brand new ways to crush their enemies. Some of these are just stinking fun, like a big ass mantis gauntlet or clubbing people with a Nuka-Cola sign. My personal favorite, which I have an unhealthy obsession with, is the MFC cluster grenade. It's a bundle of microfusion cells that detonate a violent energy orgasm at anyone you point it at. Hands down, the best weapon ever made. Overall, I think New Vegas' DLCs are so damn good, making an already legendary game even better. I know this video wasn't perfect, and there was so much I had to skip over because there's a lot of content and details packed into each DLC. But hopefully this gave you some insight into what I think makes the DLC so magical. I love New Vegas, and it's been my favorite game of all time for a long time at this point, and being able to gush over this decade-old game is always so much fun. But I promise you, this won't be the final time we talk about Fallout. As much as I like to make fun of Fallout 3, I actually have a lot of great things to say about that game.
It's a decent game.
Fallout 3 walked so New Vegas could run. So maybe one day I'll get around to making a video on that. Like a lot of the footage you saw in this video was captured with the Tale of Two Wastelands mod. It's why in some of the clips I had the Chinese assault rifle, rocket launcher, and even the cut cryolator weapon from 3. So hey, it's...
I was gonna fucking say, I noticed the rocket launcher. I was like, that's not in New Vegas, is it? And I didn't say anything about it because I was like, oh, maybe I'm just high. Like maybe I'm just like, but no, okay, Tale of Two Wastelands, man. Okay, cool, very cool. And the Chinese assault rifle too, I also did see that in a few clips and I was like, what? I didn't mention it though, because I don't know. Damn.
The Chinese assault rifle, rocket launcher, and even the cut cryolator weapon from 3. So hey, it's definitely on my mind. But one last thing, I want to give a massive shout out to my patrons. I know that no one likes seeing ads on these videos, so ad-free versions of these videos can always be found there. And thanks to these guys, hopefully one day we can get these videos out faster and continue to make them better. So yeah, on screen are the OGs who have been supporting this channel from the beginning. And I want to give a personal shout out to Ridley, who recently became a big Patreon member. I find it flattering that you guys want to support these goofy ass videos, and I'm gonna keep working harder to raise the bar on them. There's some really cool things I have planned in the future, okay? But for the meanwhile, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching. Like, for real, this shit is so cool. Let's do this again in a couple months, okay? I'll see you soon.
That was awesome, guys. That was the magic behind Fallout New Vegas DLCs by Boofcan. Yeah, really enjoyed that. Really thought out explanation on the magic of Fallout New Vegas' DLCs, why they're so good, his thoughts on them. I agreed a lot with a lot of that. I have to say I did agree with a lot of that, especially his ranking, the way he ranked them. I'd switch it around slightly, but had nothing wrong to say about that, nothing bad to say about that. And yeah, basically the way he went through them there, I couldn't really say it much better. That was a pretty detailed explanation of the DLC. He missed some stuff here and there, I think, but again, you know, this was already an hour and 16-minute long video. You know, to go fully in depth, man, you're talking a lot more time potentially, and that takes a lot more scripting, a lot more work for sure to put a video like this with the editing. The editing was fantastic, the music was fantastic. Really enjoyed his cadence, his style, I have to say. So maybe we do have to check out some of this, some more of his content sometime on the channel. Let's leave a sub right there, actually. In fact, yeah, if you guys enjoyed this reaction, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe for more content from me. Of course, leave your recommendations down in the comments below. And of course, big thank you to all of our members, Oliver Stadi, our Triari, our Principe Dagenhart, and of course our Prefect Fyr and Hobbit. Appreciate you guys. You guys inspire me to make more content for you guys every single day. Without any further delay, guys, this has been Centurion. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, guys.